is the Reverend Peter Laws. Now, Peter Laws, you've written, is it 5 books by now?
Yeah, 5 books, which seems pretty crazy, but yes, I counted them the other day.
So you collect. I mean, it does an authorship become more of you become more of an author because you've written more books, or how do you get that status?
Well, no, I think you just as soon as you've written one, you technically class, but you could say you're a multiple author, I suppose.
Now, some people like J.K. Rowling have gone from books to movies, obviously writing a screenplay in between. But you've gone from your books to a podcast. What on earth are you doing?
Yeah, I mean that was actually a result from lockdown from last year when we first went into the sort of the shutdown and we had to stay at home. And I had so many I had all of my author events cancelled for the year, and I was trying to think of ways that I could connect with people in a fairly immediate way rather than just write a whole new book. And so I came up with a very strange podcast, which combines my interests and the sort of stuff I write about, and it seems to be connecting with people, which is good.
Yeah, I've listened to them, and I love the weirdness of it all, the creepy Cove community church. And you've kind of taken what could only be described as 2 subjects that maybe never should mar.
Yes, the show has been described as Stephen King meets Songs of Praise, in the sense that it is basically full church services with gothic sounding hymns and sermons and prayers. But these church services take place in a haunted, mysterious fishing town called Creepy Cove, where all horror movies actually happened. And so the central idea really of the show is for people to have a kind of immersive virtual experience of a very strange church. But the amazing bit is the responses I've been getting of people who say, this is really helping me, because the sermons are about normal things, dealing with worry, dealing with stress or whatever. And somehow people are enjoying the weird comedy horror stuff, but also finding themselves helped by the content too.
And so, Peter, you always wanted to be an author?
Well, actually, yeah. When I was a teenager, an early teenager, I wanted to be, and I remember I wrote my first little book called Arcade about a sort of a haunted amusement arcade. But then I didn't kind of bother with that because I started getting into music and I joined bands, and basically I just would like to do something creative. And it wasn't until about just over 10 years ago when I decided I'm going to start to look back into writing again, and was lucky enough to end up getting book deals. And that was a long road, by the way, but I got there in the end. And
Yes,
yeah, right now.
I've known you for a while, and I've been in groups where you've spoken about the fact that you sent it off, but it didn't happen, and you keep sending it
Oh,
off, and you keep
yeah.
sending it back. And I mean, how do you deal with the constant no's? I mean, is there any glimmer of hope ever?
Well, I mean, you certainly you go into it like expecting it and expecting it to be relentlessly rejecting or for a long time. And I think if you go in thinking I'm going to get a book deal straight away, that's where kind of madness lies. There were times when I thought that at the beginning because I got a literary agent very early, and apparently it's very hard to get an agent. So I thought, oh well, I got the agent, I'm going to get the book deal now. But then it was about another 4 or 5 years until I got my first book deal. So yeah, it's a hard road, but it's a noble one, to write and to create. And if there's anyone out there listening who you're on that road of rejection and writing, keep going, because it is a meaningful thing, no matter what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah. I was going to say, what other one piece of advice would you give to people if they're thinking, even on well booked day, it inspires them to write about something? Where do you start?
Well, I mean, the best advice I would say is just to, I know it sounds a bit obvious, but like sit down and write, which is actually not something that everyone does. They'll think, oh, well, I need to research, I need to kind of think about this, and they spend it. Oh, I have to wait for myself to get in the mood, and then I'll write. Oh, I'm not in the mood today, so I won't write. But without doubt, the best advice is to treat it like a plumber would treat fixing a tap. If a plumber turned up at your house and he said, I'm not feeling it today, so didn't fix the tap, you'd be like, no, just do the job. And I think the key to being an author or a writer of anything is to say, actually, just sit down and do it. And you'd be surprised how that discipline can get you into a creative space.
Brilliant. Right, we're talking to Peter Laws. Now, Eddie, where can we find out more about your books, especially your Matt Hunter books, which I've loved already? Please tell me there's
Thank
another
you.
one coming soon. And secondly, where can we find out more information?
The best place to go is peterlaws.co.uk, which has kind of got access to all of the sort of stuff I do, including my nonfiction book about morbid things, as well as my fiction. But creepycove.com is the place you can go to visit this this spooky church on the peak. And there's plenty of pews up there in the old church, so you'd be more than welcome.